So before I dive in with the official introduction, I just want to say a huge thank you to the Barstow School in particular for doing like a found footage walking around with a camera during that dance. That was amazing. I also want to note that this is a particularly exciting broadcast for me because I get to hang out with one of my very favorite people we've ever had on Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And I get to do it because my in-laws, Rob and Linda, went to the airport early so I could rush back and get here in time to host this. So I'm super jazzed, everybody. For those who are new to this and me, my name is Jesse. I'm with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And if you're joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Now, this is our space month, which means we are having on astronauts, engineers, the most amazing people from around the globe working to explore the universe around us. It has been a wild ride. We've done, I think, 45 broadcasts total since September 12th, so it's been insane. Everything we do goes to our YouTube channel. So if you want to check out programs you've missed, if you want to share this one with your family and friends, head to our YouTube channel at the end, subscribe, get involved, and you can hear from some of the coolest people on planet Earth. And before I dive in with today's speaker, I want to highlight we will have a Kahoot today. So between our talk and our Q&A, for all 600 of you joining around North America, you can use this game pin, and in about 25 minutes or so, we'll have a quick quiz before our Q&A time. So I'm really excited for you guys to join for that. Make sure to get that up, and I will share that again before we go live. Now, I'm so thrilled today because you guys get to meet for the very first time Ravi Prakash. He is a systems engineer at NASA's fabled Jet Propulsion Laboratory, one of the most iconic research facilities on planet Earth. He gets to design and work on building things that go to other worlds. If there's a cooler job than that, I do not know what it is. He also had the best interlude in his career of all time. I don't know if he's going to talk about that today, but if he does, it'll be very exciting for you. Because a little tiny bit, Ravi's saying in the background. He's got the coolest jobs in the history of the world. So if you're not excited about that, I don't know what to tell you. You just go to math class or something. But if you are here for this, I'm so excited for you to introduce you to Ravi. Without further ado, man, welcome back to the broadcast. And nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you, Jesse. Thanks for that great intro. I love it. And I love talking to all of you. So thanks for making time. I am going to be talking a little bit today about the place I work at, the Jet Propulsion Lab, and how we paved the way for humans to go to the moon. And we've been doing the same thing to Mars. So let me get started. I'll talk a little bit about the stuff I've done so far. So I started at JPL almost 20 years ago. That's a long time ago, before any of you were born. And one of the first things I got to do was be part of the team that landed the Curiosity rover on Mars. So that's this big car-sized rover on the top left. And I was part of the landing team. Then I left JPL just for a handful of years to use my engineering background to design tools to help lift people out of poverty. And what's really cool about engineering is that it teaches you how to solve any problem at all. And so you can go from designing spacecraft to designing planting devices for farmers in Ethiopia, and that's what I did. Then I came back to JPL and I worked on another Mars mission, the InSight lander. So this is a spacecraft that landed near the equator of Mars and measured Mars quakes. So just like we have earthquakes on Earth, we have Mars quakes on Mars. And so that was really cool. That mission was very successful and just finished its mission. Then I went to work on Psyche, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Psyche at the end of the presentation because Psyche is going to launch very soon, but this is a spacecraft that's going to visit an asteroid that we think is made out of metal, and that's the first time we visited a planet that is made out of anything other than rock or ice or gas. And then in the center of it all is my beautiful family, my wife and my two daughters, who keep me very entertained and busy all the time. But so JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, what are we about? What do we do? We get to serve the nation by exploring space in the pursuit of discoveries that benefit humanity. What does that mean? That means every day I get to come into work and design a spacecraft to do something that's never been done before, to answer questions that have never been answered before. Questions like, are we alone in the universe? This is really cool. I get to do this every day. And we benefit humanity. A lot of the things we do end up either answering these big questions, or there's what we call spin-offs. So we develop technology that gets used by everyday people. So if your parents or maybe a doctor has ever taken your temperature through your ear with one of those ear thermometers, that uses technology that came from NASA. We invented a way to tell the temperature of a star really, really far away. And that same technology is now used to tell you the temperature of your body through your ear. Really cool, right? It uses infrared technology. We also get to inspire people like you to go into science and technology and math and engineering fields, things that, invent things to help everybody around the world. So it's really, really cool what we get to do at JPL. So this, I know you can't hear the sound, and I actually muted it just now. So this happened decades ago. This is the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, who gave a speech just after we launched the first human into space. And so we had just launched someone into space for the first time, and he said, "I want to land on the moon before this decade is over." And so within 9 years, he wanted to land a person on the moon, and all we had done was launch someone into space. We've never been to another planet before. We've never been to the moon before, and we've never sent anyone anywhere else other than just Earth's orbit. But he wanted to go to the moon. And we had a lot of questions about how we do that. Like, how do you even get to the moon? When you get there, is it soft? Is it hard? Are you going to sink when you land? There were a lot of questions. And so that's when NASA said, "Hey, JPL, can you help us answer these questions?" And so we did that with a couple of spacecraft. The first one on the left was called the Ranger spacecraft. And so all this thing had to do was to crash on the moon, but on its way down, take pictures. And that sounds really simple, right? Just crash, not even have to land softly. Let me tell you how hard it was. So the very first attempt, Ranger 1, we launch, and right when we get into space, the launch vehicle fails. So we got to try attempt number 2. So we launch again, we build another spacecraft, we launch again, and that launch vehicle failed also. So now we're on attempt number 3. We launch, the launch vehicle works this time, but when it aims us towards the moon, it missed by a little bit. So we didn't even hit the moon. So that one's a failure. Hitting the moon was hard back then. Attempt number 4 now. So we launch, we're headed towards the moon. This time we're doing it right, but the computer on the spacecraft died. So then we have no control. We crashed in a random place on the moon, and we didn't take any pictures. So that mission was a failure as well. So now we're on attempt number 5. We built our 5th spacecraft. We launch, and we again missed the moon with the launch vehicle. So that didn't work out. Attempt number 6, we launch, we're headed towards the moon. The computer's working this time, but the camera dies right before we're landing. And so that part didn't work, and that one was also a failure. So now we're on attempt number 7, and I have a video of attempt number 7 where these engineers are looking at the data as we're going into the moon. What you see on this screen are pictures of us going into the moon. So this one actually did work the way it was supposed to. We landed, we crash landed where we were supposed to, we took pictures, but it took 7 attempts for us to get it right. It took 6 failed missions. We learned a lot from every mission. We had to make it better, and it took a lot of perseverance, right? If you're trying something and you fail over and over and over, it's so disheartening, it's so tiring, but you have to persevere and keep going and work hard, and that's what these engineers did. And on the 7th attempt, we landed on the moon. We crash landed and took the pictures, and that was great. And NASA was like, "Hey, that's really cool. You can do that. But can you land softly this time now? Because what we need to do with astronauts is land softly on the moon. We can't crash." And so because of all the things we learned with these failed missions, it turned out the very first attempt of what we call the Surveyor mission was successful. But it was only because we had a lot of failures, and we learned a lot from those failures about how to do it successfully. And we continued to do these Surveyor missions, and there were 7 in total. 2 of them did crash, but 5 of them were successful. And so NASA said, "You know what? We're ready to land humans on the moon now." And that's what we did. So on the right-hand side is a picture of Buzz Aldrin, the second person who walked on the moon, in front of the flag that was planted on the moon. And that's a really great picture that a lot of people have seen before. The picture on the left, though, is really, really cool too. So in the background is this really small picture of a spacecraft, and that's the spacecraft that the astronauts used to land on the moon. This is from Apollo 12, the second mission that landed on the moon. And then the astronauts' mission was to walk over to this funny-looking thing, which was the Surveyor spacecraft, and take it apart. They took the computer, they took electronics, they took part of the metal on the outside, and they brought it back to Earth. And the reason they did that is because they wanted to They wanted scientists to look at this stuff and say, oh, so this is what years of being on the moon is like. This is the radiation. This is what it does to the hardware. We learned a lot about what it's like to be on the moon for years because the astronauts took apart this spacecraft and brought it home. What's really cool is if you are able to visit JPL one day and you go to our museum, there's a piece of this spacecraft that the astronauts gave us as a thank you for setting them up for success. So I say all that to say, we have been doing the same thing for Mars. We have been getting ready and paving the way for human exploration of Mars for the last several decades. It all started back in the 70s where we landed our first spacecraft on Mars. We've landed a lot of rovers on Mars. This is sort of a family portrait of all the rovers we landed on Mars. The first one was the size of a wheel of a car and has gotten to as big as a car. We've landed a helicopter on Mars. And the next thing that we're planning right now is this behemoth of a lander. It's bigger than a car. It's really, really huge. And that is what this next video is about. So as we talk right now, there is a rover on Mars called Perseverance that is basically putting dirt into tubes. And that is getting ready for this next lander that's going to launch, in sometime in the future. But it's really, really big, and it's going to land near that rover. And the plan is for that rover, Perseverance, to drive over to this lander and put those tubes of dirt into the lander. Then that lander is going to encapsulate, it's going to close up that dirt, put it into a rocket that's the size of a grand piano, throw it up in the air, light it, and have it go into space. Then that rocket is going to meet up with an orbiter designed by the European Space Agency. It's then going to take really good care of that sample and start heading towards Earth. And it's a long journey back to Earth. But when it gets there, when it gets close, it's going to shoot a capsule with those samples into a desert in Utah, where samples are going to be for human scientists for the very first time to grab, look at it, and tell us a lot about Mars. By the way, there was some really inspiring music that you could not hear, but trust me, it was great. So now, so how are these wheel prints that we've been making on Mars paving the way for these human footprints on Mars? A few different ways. First of all, we've never had scientists be able to look at real dirt from Mars. When they get this dirt, they can tell us a lot about Mars that we've never known before, like what is it made out of, what is the radiation content, how habitable might Mars be for humans. Also, for the first time, we're doing a lot of things on this mission that we've never done before that we eventually have to do for humans. We're landing something even bigger than we've landed before. And with humans, we know we have to land really large spacecraft. We are taking off from Mars. We've never launched anything off of Mars before. That's the first time. And we're sending something back. We have to send humans back, and we've never sent anything back from Mars. So we're doing a lot of things for the first time that we've never done before that we have to do in order to pave the way for humans on Mars. And so that's super cool that, JPL has taken a part in how we got humans to the moon, and we're playing a big part in how we're getting humans to Mars. That's what I had to say about Mars. I just want to say one final thing about Psyche. So Psyche, like I mentioned before, is a spacecraft that its name of the spacecraft is also the name of the asteroid it's going to visit. So this spacecraft might launch as early as Thursday this week, just in a couple days. But if the weather doesn't hold up, then maybe it launches over the weekend or maybe a week later or sometime thereafter. But it's going to launch really, really soon. And if you check out a website that I'll send to Jesse, you can know the latest about when it's going to launch. But what's really cool is that we think this asteroid used to be a planet. It might have gotten obliterated by something else, and it left that planet into shreds. But the core of that planet, the liquid hot magma of that planet, cooled down and became a rock that we call an asteroid. This is our theory, and we're going to check it out. And if that's true, then that means this is the first time we're seeing the core of a former planet. And we can study this thing and learn a lot about Earth, because it's actually hard to study our core. Our core is under so much dirt, miles and miles and miles and miles of dirt, thousands of miles, I think. And so we can't dig that far. And so this is a great way to study what used to be the core of a planet. And it's going to launch really, really soon. So that's that. I would love to take all your questions.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for such a fantastic presentation, man. That was so cool. Correct me if I'm wrong. The mission page for Psyche is below.
There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'll make sure all the classes, whether you're on live, YouTube, whatever, you have that link, because it says October 12th right now, which is like mind-blowingly soon. It's just absurd. I've never heard the core of a planet thing before. Like I've done a lot of Mars programs, so I've heard a lot of the things that we've talked about Mars before, but that is super neat and unique to me. So thank you for sharing that very much.
Yeah. I will say the reason that I'm here and not usually I give this talk in mission control at JPL. They're busy getting ready for that launch, which is why I have this background here, which is really cool also. This is right outside my office, and this is a wall of hardware that we have built, and this is real hardware that we've built to test before we send things to space.
You have the best props of all time. I don't know if you're able to grab any of those props. We might get kids asking about that. Just a heads up for you in advance. Yes, it's grabbable. Wheels.
This is a test wheel that we use for our Curiosity and Perseverance rovers. Really cool, right? I can just grab it and look at it and play with it.
See, I told you guys in advance. I told you guys it was going to be fun. We're going to dive into Kahoot before we do Q&A. Oh, I'm kicking my mic stand. That's exciting. Let me pull up our Kahoot. If you're new to Kahoot, the faster you answer, the more points you get. And what you win is Ravi and I's everlasting respect. So we are hoping the best for you. 4 questions. Test your understanding, have a little bit of fun. There's already 50 of you in, which is amazing. If you're on YouTube in particular, try and answer in the first 2 seconds, because it tends to be a little delayed for you folks there. But I'm going to put Ravi and I on the side of the screen here in a minute, and you can help us out with some hints in the final seconds of each of these. Because I had to rush home, I got to reuse a Kahoot from a last one. So one of our classes was actually in that last one. So you guys are going to be at a big advantage in this Kahoot. But let's play. We'll get in. And then this passage class, Cherokee, Texas, one of the smallest communities we ever have on. So many students in your class today. I'm so excited to start with a Q&A with you. We're going to go to absolutely everyone. There's 83 of you. Wow. Ravi, they're like the chomping at the bit here, man. This is the joy of this job. All right. Here we go. By the way, your family is so delightful. I don't remember seeing a picture of them. Maybe I just
thank you.
My mind. What a cute family you have. All right, Mars is how big compared to the Earth? Is it half as big, about the same size, or twice as big? And remember that my pictures never have anything to do with what I'm actually trying to get you to answer. I like throwing people off desperately. 65 answers in. It looks much bigger in the picture, but I don't know if that's the case. I think that might be a little bit of a teaser. 97 answers. Ooh, it was the dominant answer, about half as big. Venus is much closer in size to Earth. Mars is a lot smaller, but because most of our surface is ocean, we have a similar amount of land surface, if I'm not mistaken, right? To explore with our robot. Okay.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
All right, let's see what our leaderboard is at. If you are any of these folks, let us know who you are at the end. Creative Badger takes our lead. As we go into question 2. How many rovers? So we talked about some landers. Landers land, rovers drive around. How many rovers have successfully been to Mars? Is it 1, 5, 20, or over 100? We're just sending one every day. Now that we've nailed those landings. By the way, that moon stuff at the beginning was spectacular. And I will send something with that speech to our classes, but it's very cool in the history of space exploration. Ooh, most of you got this right. 5 is correct. The fact that this is true at all, and the fact that so many have happened during my lifetime, like it is the best time to ever be interested in space. If you are a kid in these classes and you want to work on other planets, other worlds, exploring the cosmos further than our solar system, you couldn't be alive at a better time. Agent Cat takes our lead, Ravi. This is very exciting as we go into question 3.
Yeah.
True or false?
Great job.
All right. Mars, it used to have flowing water on its surface. Now, this is not a picture of Mars, because that would be an obvious yes then. This is a picture of somewhere, I think, in Chile. But it looks vaguely Martian, except for the plants. In the past, perhaps, maybe not. I will say I'm going to skip showing who's on the leaderboard after this one, because our last question is not worth any points. So 128 of you win, which might be a record of the year. True, Mars absolutely used to have flowing water on its surface. We've been talking about this in our past Mars programs. Abigail Freeman's coming on soon. She's a specialist in this. So I encourage you to check out her broadcast as well. I'm going to skip through this really quick to go to our final question. There is no points for this. I just want to get a sense of your optimism or pessimism as a classroom. We will one day walk on Mars. Absolutely, or like no way? What do we think? There's some Martian fake astronauts in this picture. What do we think? Are we walking on Mars? I will note, Ravi, and I mean, you can corroborate this because we always get this question when it comes to Mars. If like the plans are to go, and it would be the age of our students that would basically be astronauts that would be going to Mars, which is absurd and so cool.
That is true. Yeah. You all are the people that would be walking on Mars.
It's mind-blowing. Our day is done. We just get to do other cool stuff. But you guys, when 15 years or so, you're heading. So 3/4, I would say, said yes, and a quarter are like they weren't convinced. We're gonna have to convince them over the course of this next few broadcasts of Space Month.
Exactly.
Here's our leaderboard. Amusing Eagle. Number 2 is Dynamic Bobcat, and number 1 for all the marbles by 1 point. It closes mark.
1 point. Ever. Yeah.
Oh, Agent Cat.
And 2 points separates third place and first place.
I just noticed that. That's never happened in the history of this thing ever. That's amazing. Cool, folks. Well, we're going to go to Cherokee, Texas, Miss Paget's class. If you guys want to come on in and kick us off with a question, you are good to go. Just unmute your mic. And we're heading to our Barstow School right after that. Come on in, Miss Paget's group. Hey, folks. Hi.
Okay, Addie, stand up and ask your question.
How deep is Mars?
How deep is Mars?
Ooh. That's a great question. First of all, I'll say I'm also from Texas. I'm from Texas City, Texas, which is near Houston, near Johnson Space Center. How deep is Mars? So Mars has, so on Earth, we have something called the Grand Canyon, which is this deep, deep valley. Mars has something called Valles Marineris, which is way deeper. It's miles and miles deep. So I don't know how deep that is, but it does have something that's way deeper than what we have on Earth.
Oh, my computer's giving me fits trying to get up Google while I'm doing this, but it's spelled, I think I have this right. I could be wrong. Valles Marineris? No, maybe.
Looks good enough to me, but I couldn't tell you.
It features in a lot of Mars sci-fi films and books because it's such an incredible geological feature. We've never had that question in any of our programs, so thanks, Abby. Kansas City, let's head to our 5th graders there. Welcome in, Barstow School. Come on in. Hey.
Hi. Hi, I'm Lily. And how long does it take to build a spacecraft?
Ooh, I love this question.
Ooh, I love this question. So it takes a long time to build a spacecraft, and it depends when you want to start saying you're starting to build it. So you start designing the thing like on paper. Let's say you were designing it today, and it takes maybe about let's say 3 to 5 years before you have something to where you're going to say, okay, let's start building the thing. So now you start cutting metal, you're doing a lot of testing, and maybe you do like a couple years of tests, and then you say, okay, this is the thing I'm going to actually this is the design that I know I'm going to send to space. And so then you start building the real spacecraft. That takes another year or 2, and then you're ready for launch. So from like a white sheet of paper where you have, I'm going to design something, all the way to I'm ready to launch, might take like 10 years, might take more, might take less, depending on how complex it is. But the actual building of a spacecraft takes about a year or 2.
Fantastic. Great question, guys. I would like when we get that one. Thanks, Lily. Our grade 6s in Aurelia. If you guys want to come on in, unmute your mic. That one student, just run up and do it again. Perfect. And then you're good to go. Come on in. Hey, Aurelia.
Is there, could there be microscopic life on Mars or the asteroid?
I love it.
Yeah. That is the question that we've been trying to answer. Is there life on Mars? So what we've learned so far is that, like Jesse mentioned, Mars had water at some point, and actually still has some amount of water at the poles, and there might be other types of water elsewhere that we're trying to discover. And we know that life on Earth is made out of carbon. It's this element that all life is made out of, and we know that Mars has an environment that can support carbon-based life. And so it has sort of all the ingredients that you could have for life. It's really hard to say that, yep, there's life right now on Mars. And that's what sending humans will be able to help answer. The asteroid is a different beast. And, as far as what we know, life needs water and air and all these other things. And so the asteroid doesn't have water, it doesn't have air. And so it probably does not have life. But, we've been surprised in the past. And that's why we go there to learn these things.
I will say, but it's something that I think a lot of kids, it's hard to conceive of what a momentous thing it would be if we found life. It would be the greatest discovery in the history of mankind. I mean, like it would blow out of the water anything we've ever discovered as a species to find out that we are not alone in the universe. And I love when we get this question. So a big thanks to our Aurelia class. That was awesome. And thank you so much for that. Front of Young, Miss Farr's class. I'm coming to you next. Miss O's class, if you want to flick on your mic and camera, that would be great. And then Jeremy, I'll take your question in just a second, man. That's awesome. But Front of Young, come on back in. Hey, welcome back. Hi. You were in. There we go.
My name
came on and off. Talk to me. Let's see.
Hi, my name's Mara, and I'm wondering, how did you get the names for all the rovers?
Oh, that is such a good question. Actually, folks like you have helped us name the rovers. So every time we have a rover, we have an essay contest where you pick out a name and you write why you think that name should be the name of the rover. And that's how all of our rovers have gotten their names: Spirit and Opportunity, Curiosity, Perseverance. And there's really great stories behind each one. And I got to meet the student who, Clara Ma is her name, who named the Curiosity rover. And that was really, really cool. I was really inspired by her story. And so so next time we have a rover, be on the lookout and write an essay, and you might be the person that names it.
I was just going to ask, I'm trying to think of all the missions. Is there a planned mission with a rover? We have several on right now. So it's interesting time. I don't know if there are plans. Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know of one yet. And it's possible that, we'll also apply that to our Mars lander that's gonna be there next. But I'm not sure. I will say though, the people who win these contests get to come to JPL. Clara signed the rover. Like, how cool is it that her signature is on a rover on Mars? Like, it's unbelievable.
That's pretty cool. Hard to beat that in the annals of science exploration, especially if you're younger. That's amazing. Okay. Miss O's class, I'll come to you guys in a minute if you want to flick on your devices. Jeremy's question. Oh, there we are. Jeremy, I'll take your question right after Miss O's group. I'll be right there. Come on in, guys, and take us away. Hey.
What made you guys think about landing on Mars?
Why go, Ravi?
So, yeah, why do we go to Mars? So Mars happens to be close to us. Actually, Venus is closer, but it's Venus gets really, really hot because it's like a greenhouse. And so Mars is close enough. It's almost Earth-like. Like we think that there are enough similarities to Earth. And so it's convenient to go there, and we can learn a lot about life. So we go there because of that. There's other interesting places, like there's a moon of Jupiter called Europa, which is this solid ball of ice that has this liquid ocean underneath it. And that's also very interesting, but it's really, really far away, which makes it harder to go to. So, Mars is convenient, but it's also a great place to learn information.
Yeah, great question, guys. All right, Jeremy wants to ask, how long does it take to launch a Mars rover? So if we were to launch it right today, how long would it take to actually get there? And we had this question in our last Mars broadcast, and it shocked a lot of people. So I love this question. Thanks, man. Yeah.
So right now, think of a number. How long do you think it would take for something to get to Mars?
What do we actually? You know what? We can ask them. I'm gonna. Okay, classes. Yes. You guys have the private chat. We're gonna do this as like a fifth question. What do we think it would take to get to Mars? If you want to type this in the chat, I will say to the moon is like 2 to 3 days. So if we launch something now on Tuesday, on Friday it's on the moon. Saturday it's on the moon. What do we think for Mars? Okay, let's see what our answers are. Come on in. 2 years. Okay, interesting. Anyone else? 2 to 3 years? Wow. For 7 to 8 months we got from one class, maybe from a class that may have been in one of our Mars things. 5 days. All over the place with these ranges. I love these answers. Ravi, lay it on us, man.
Yeah. Okay. So like Jesse said, the moon is like 2 or 3 days. The moon is about like 250,000 miles away. So 250,000 miles, almost 500 kilometers away. And Mars is 1,000 times farther away. It's the trip takes 250 million miles to get to, usually. And so all of our spacecraft so far, it's been about 6 to 9 months to get there. Having said that, this next mission we're planning, we have to be really conservative with our fuel. So it takes a lot of fuel to get there, a lot of gas, you might think, like fuel is like gas. And because we're so big, we have to make sure we're using it very efficiently. And so we're taking a longer route to get to Mars this time, which will take about 1.5 years. So it's funny, it ranges from, anywhere from 6 months to over a year. Oh, I can't hear you, Jesse. Did I just lose you?
I think I'm in. Good.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now, yep.
I've got this cord. I've got this new mic, and it's very fancy, and I sound wonderful. But then when I pull that cord by accident with my hand when I'm too excited, it kills the audio. My problem is always myself. Guys, Miss or D. Bouchard, if you guys are a full class and you want to unmute your devices, turn on your camera, I can come to you for a question. Oh, I'll come to you for a question, guys. If you want to unmute your stuff, I'll come and check in a sec. I'm going to go back to Miss Paget's class first. We are whipping through these because Ravi's the best at Q&A. So come on back in Cherokee, and Bouchard's group will come to you guys in a second. Hey, 3, 4, 5.
Hi.
Back up a little bit. There you go. All right, ask your question.
Is it true that people are building houses on Mars and the moon?
Ooh.
People will.
That's something we want to do, which is build a place for people to live. So right now there are no houses on the moon or Mars, but we want to start with the moon and we want to build houses there. We call them habitats, but it's just a fancy word for a house, but a place for astronauts to breathe and eat and play and have fun. And then we want to do the same thing on Mars eventually one day as well.
I will say for our kids that are maybe not grade 3, maybe 5, grade 5 and older, the movie The Martian is like the greatest movie of like what it could be like if we like live and work on Mars. An accident happens. It's like the single greatest call to be an engineer of all time. Like it's like Jurassic Park did for paleontology. The Martian should do for engineers in the next 10 years. So I really encourage our older students to check it out because it's very fun seeing what some of those habitats or houses might look like. Bouchard's group, again, if you want to unmute your device is great. If you don't, you can just share a question in the chat, but I will head to our Barstow School friends for a second question in the meantime. Come on back into Kansas City. Hey.
Hi, I'm Penelope. What is the most dangerous and risky thing you've ever done, and how long did it take?
Ooh.
Oh, good question, Penelope. Let's see. I'm not sure what like a dangerous, risky, like from a work perspective, I'm not sure. I'll have to think about that.
We can come back. We can always ponder that. We can come back. Okay.
Let me ponder.
I like how we're going straight to danger. I like you kids. You guys are awesome. Our Bouchard crew, we're going to take 2 from you in a row as we got to miss the first round. So unmute your mic and you're in to go. Hi, guys. Let's see. Oh, talk to me. Let's see. Is the mic working? Wants to work. Maybe.
It might be muted.
No, so they're in. Their mic is on. It's just not working. So we can see you guys. So we'll say a quick hello. Hi, everyone. But the mic doesn't want to work. So share the 2 questions in the chat, and I'll pass them along to Ravi, okay? Just type them right there. Hi, everybody. So nice to have you guys in. Grade 6s, Aurelia, we're going to come to you guys while we're waiting for that. Come on back in and share a second one. Hey, guys. Unmute, though.
Another question, in the next 20 or 30 years, could people be on Mars?
Yes. Love that you asked a second one. There you go.
Yeah, in the next 20 years, could people be on Mars? That's a really good question. I think that, so NASA's trying to get to Mars with people, and there's other companies also trying to get to Mars with people. I think that in the next 20 years, someone's going to get pretty close, I hope. It's hard. 20 years sounds like a really long time away, and it is, but there's a lot of things we have to understand and solve before we can do that. Like, if we send people, like, how are they going to, there's a lot of radiation in space from the sun. How do they survive that radiation? People need to eat and drink a lot of food. And so if we had to carry, the supplies for people to survive, the trip to Mars and then on Mars and the trip back, that's like a few years worth of food and water. And so that'd be a lot of stuff to carry. So we have to find out, well, is there water on Mars that we can like get for the people to drink? Can we grow food on Mars? And so a lot of questions like that we have to figure out. I think that 20 years sounds a little sporty, but maybe, you never know. I hope so.
Me too. I'm eternally hopeful, and our kids, by a 3-1 margin, think so too. So it's very exciting.
Yes.
Bouchard's crew, thanks for that great question. I'll put you guys on screen while I say this, but welcome back in. How do you get the rover on Mars? Like, how did you actually land it there? Or any of the things that you land on Mars, how did that actually happen? And it's such a cool story, so I'm so glad you asked this. Great question, guys.
Yeah. So when we first started landing rovers on Mars, we used airbags. So like it was like there's a small rover and we just put a bunch of big balloons, airbags around it. And so when it was landing on Mars, we inflated these airbags and it bounced and it bounced and bounced and bounced until it stopped. Then we deflated the airbags and the rover came out and that was great. But the last two rovers were too big for that. They were car-sized rovers. And so if we used airbags, they would have been really, really big airbags and would have weighed too much and they wouldn't have fit in the rocket. And so we had to invent a new way to do it. And we use something that we call a sky crane. But basically, you know, if you've seen cranes that maybe are used for construction buildings, this is a crane that, you know, we're coming in really, really fast. We deploy this parachute that's, you know, it's only as big as a 7-story building. And then there's rockets that slow us down. So this car is attached to a rocket backpack. So picture a car, picture this backpack that it's going to wear with rockets on it. And as we're coming down at, you know, almost 1,000 miles an hour, we're slowing down to, starting up maybe about 100 miles an hour, slowing down to slow enough to stop. And then we lower ourselves from this rocket backpack. So this is the rocket backpack, this is the rover, and we're lowering ourselves until we land slowly at about 2 miles an hour. We touch down, and then we cut off that rope that connected the rover and the backpack, and that rocket thing flies away and crashes far, far away from the rover, and the rover starts its mission. So, you know, it's a great question, and we had to change how we did it because the rover was too big.
So Ashwin, in our last Mars broadcast, just last week, showed the sky crane. Everyone, when they're done this program, should look up the sky crane. It's the most absurd, comical thing ever. It's like one of those things that like only an engineer would come up with. And then other engineers would be like, there's no way. And then they'd like do the math and they'd be like, maybe. And then like they pass it to like 100 other engineers and like, you know, this actually could work. It just looks insane. It actually, the first time I heard about it, as a non-engineer, I was like, there's no way. Like, they lost it. They lost the plot. It's all over. And then it works beautifully twice. And it's incredible, the sky crane. So everyone should check that out. Front of Young, I'm going to head to you guys. And then Miss O's class to wrap up. These are great questions, everyone. I'll make sure you all have a big email with lots of resources to keep the learning going when we're done, too. But Miss Bronk, come on back in and take us away. Hey.
Is the Earth's core the same as the one on Mars?
Never had that question in the history of exploring by the future dance. I love it.
Yeah. So is the core of the Earth the same as Mars? The answer, I believe, is no. There are some differences, and I think there's some similarities. So our core is this liquid hot thing, and I think. So the InSight lander, the one that the one that just landed near the equator and measures Marsquakes, part of the thing that was going to answer was, does Mars have a liquid core or a solid core? What's the size of it? We've learned stuff, and I'm not sure what we've learned from it because I haven't kept up. And so I want to say there are some differences. I'm not even sure if the core is liquid or not, but I bet that information is out there. So I can look it up, and I encourage you to look it up.
Yes, I'll highlight the Mars mission again, the fantastic website with everything that you ever wanted to know about Mars missions. The fact that you can follow along with us in real time is insane and ridiculous. Just skip all your other classes today. No, don't actually do that. But when you're done today, go to mars.nasa.gov. Amazing stuff. But yes, they are different, which is really cool. The fact that we can tell that, the fact that we can even know what our own core is like is super cool. Scientists are amazing. Miss O's class, we're going to head to Rochester for one final question. This has been such a fun broadcast, but come on in to wrap us up with one more. Thank you so much, guys. Hey.
Hi, my name is Molly, and I have a question. Is it true that scientists think in 5.8 billion years the sun's going to explode?
Oh, no. We never had that question. We never did. I love it. It's so dark, but so awesome.
Yeah. So we know that the sun is a star, and every star has a life. Their stars are born in what we call nebulas, and then they get, they get bigger, and then at some point they do explode. And so, yeah, it's and actually, what's funny is, let's just pretend that we are fast forwarding to the future. the Earth would, of course, get obliterated if the sun exploded. But what's really funny is before a star explodes, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So actually, the sun would consume the Earth. It would get so big that it would be bigger than the Earth's orbit, and it would consume the Earth before it even blew up. So yeah, yes, the sun will explode one day. You don't have to worry about it. Your kids won't have to worry about it. No one will have to worry about it.
No one will have
People
to
won't
worry
be
about
around.
Yeah, well, we either won't be around or we'll be so technologically advanced, we'll be somewhere entirely
Yeah.
different because
Exactly.
humankind has been around for about 300,000 years, and the timeline that we're talking about for the sun being a risk to us is like millions of times longer than people have been around at all. Like this, it's way longer than dinosaurs were ago. It's way longer than like life on Earth was ago. Like it's a long time. So it sounds kind of scary. The sun's going to engulf us one day, but you can't even fathom how far that is in the future. So nothing to worry about. Whew, the sun is okay. You can go out and enjoy a sunny day at the beach. These were some unique, amazing, wonderful questions. You guys are an incredible audience. I really encourage you. Check out the Psyche mission page. I'll share that with your teachers when we're done. Let us know what you thought of the program. Your teachers can do that with their survey at the end. Check out mars.nasa.gov for so much more to explore. And honestly, your learning is just getting started today. And if you want to join us for our art contest and highlight what you want the James Webb Space Telescope to look for, maybe it's planets like Mars elsewhere, check that out below. Lots of stuff to keep learning going. And share this with your family and friends. YouTube, we are here forever. Ravi and I, you can look at us in 20 years. When we're walking on Mars, you can look back on this broadcast and see Ravi's answer, and we'll look so young. It'll be so great. Classes, thank you so much. And Ravi, as you know, what we do to wrap up every broadcast, I'm going to bring in everybody to say a huge thank you and farewell. This is going to be incredibly loud. Miss Paget's class, Barstow School, Aurelia, There's so much happening. I can't even on the screen. It's like not letting me. There's too much happening.